Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hi, my name is Alyssa, and for today's video, I'm going to be doing the palette tag. Now this is nothing new by any means. This has probably been circulating for like the past month or so here on YouTube, and it looks like something that just seemed really fun. I don't really talk about my eyeshadow palettes to any sort of crazy extent, and so I figured this would be a good way to kind of share some of my collection with you guys, some of my thoughts and opinions on the things that I own, and it just seemed like an easy and fun video, and so I figured why the heck not. So that is what I'm going to be getting into today. I really hope that you guys are excited, and if you would like to know all my answers to these questions, then let's just go ahead and get started. Okay guys, so before we actually get started into the questions, I just want to go ahead and like preface this by saying that I'm only going to be showing palettes made by brands, not any sort of like customizable palettes or Z palettes or anything like that, because I just figured like that's not quite fair. Although I do have quite a few of those, and of course those would be some of my favorites because, well, like I made them, so they're like customized for me. Also, if you're wondering about this makeup look, this is from the Zodiac Makeup Challenge, which should probably either already be up or will be up right after that, but if it is up, I will link it up here for you. Feel free to go check that out, and let's go ahead and get into it. So the first question is to show my newest palette, and my newest palette to my collection is the Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson Conspiracy palette. There should be a video up already, like when I preview getting this and do a makeup look with it, but this is the palette on the inside if for some reason you haven't seen it. And for me, like I mentioned in that video, I actually was never going to buy this palette. I wasn't even that interested in it. And then I finally watched that Jeffree Star Shane Dawson series and I got sucked into it. That was the most genius marketing ploy that I have ever seen. They got my ass and I got this palette, and I do enjoy it. I think it is probably one of the palettes with the most sickest packaging I have ever seen. Like the attention to detail here is astounding, but yeah, this is my newest palette in my collection. So the next question is my oldest makeup palette, and so this was a little bit more difficult because I honestly can't remember when I got some of this stuff, because when I jumped into makeup, I jumped in really hard, really fast. But from what I currently have and still have in my drawer, I'm pretty sure this is my oldest palette. This is the Morphe 350. What a flashback. I actually, like, this was somewhere in the bottom of my drawer. I haven't used it in a minute, which is so rude because I love this bad boy. As you can see, this packaging. She's quite dirty. She's quite well loved. I used this a ton when I first got it. This was the palette to have. And I think it's perfect for like beginners because it's so neutral yet with like a couple pops of orange, especially if you like warm tones. Like this is really good, and in my opinion Morphe does have a good formula, and I think for the price it's pretty stinking fair. So this is one of my oldest palettes. It may not be the oldest, but from what I can remember, this was it. Like this is even in their like old packaging, so good old reliable there. So next it says to show my most expensive palette, and hands down my most expensive palette is this Natasha Denona Sunset palette. Yeah, this was expensive. I don't think that I bought this. I think my parents actually got it for me as a Christmas present, because that is a lot to choke down for a palette. It's like, what, like $130? Like, but this is what she looks like, and she's beautiful. Like, I will give her that. Okay, so contrary to my most expensive palette, the next question is to show my most affordable palette, and that is easily this e.l.f. Bite Size Shadow in Carnival Candy. This is what she looks like. I was so impressed by this. I did do like a first impressions kind of tutorial thing using it, and I will link the video up there so you can check it out if you want to see it in use, kind of get some inspo on how to use this one. But this was really impressive, you guys, like really impressive. e.l.f. has stepped it up a ton the past couple of years, and honestly, at first I was like, oh, those aren't really my jam because there's not much to it, but no. I have done numerous looks using this palette, and they're similar but still different, and so I think these are some really great palettes. Formula is really bomb, shimmer is amazing in there, and I definitely want to pick up some more of these. So if you have favorites of these little quad type things, leave them down below in the comments for me, would ya? Okay, so the next question is to show like my everyday palette, and again I have done a get ready with me using this palette, so I will link it again for you guys. But my everyday palette is this Dose of Colors Friendcation palette. This was the collab with Desi and Katie, and you guys, this palette is amazing. I have nothing negative to say about it. Formula is flawless, like absolutely flawless. Like every bit of what's going on in here is absolutely stunning. If I don't know what I want to do, this is the palette that I use. When I travel, this is the palette that I take because I feel like it's compact enough and there are so many looks that you can do in here. It's so many pops of color. It's absolutely astounding, and I do like to pair it with their mini quad, but I didn't want to say that in this video because I was trying to like keep it right on track. But yeah, this is absolutely flawless. If for some reason you have not got this palette, let me tell you, you need it. Just trust me, I wouldn't lead you guys astray. So the next question is, what is my most colorful eyeshadow palette? And this was so easy for me to pull. Hands down, it is the Jeffree Star Jawbreaker palette. It doesn't get any more colorful than this, you guys. Like, honestly, it is like rainbow craziness. It's got pastels and deeper colors. You've got literally almost every color in the rainbow. This is my most colorful palette, hands down, with like, what, 2 neutral shades in it? So the next question is, what is my smallest palette? And again, that's gonna be that e.l.f. Bite Size Shadow palette. And then flipping that around, what is my biggest palette? And my biggest palette is the Morphe Dare to Create the 39A palette. This is huge, you guys. It is so, like, it's astronomically large. Like, it takes up the most ridiculous amount of space in my drawer. It's like, I mean, it's bigger than my head, but it's a good palette. Like, I do like the concept of using all the transition shades as much larger pan sizes since you would use those more. I like that it's broken up into quads. I'm pretty sure I've done a review and some tutorials on this, and I will link them down below or anything if you want to see this in action. But it's definitely the biggest palette by far. I don't know that I would ever get one this big again because it just is a little bit more difficult to store, but it is a good palette. Okay, so next it says to show my palette with like my favorite or best memory with it. And when I was looking through my collection, I definitely had to pick the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Volume 1 palette. This bad boy is disgusting. She has seen better days. She is beat the hell up. This is what it looks like on the inside for anybody, you know, you just don't know. Like, she is well loved. I would say the reason I picked this one for best memory is because, like, I was so adamant on getting this palette when it launched. I made sure I saved my money. I made sure I was ready on launch day. I had it in my cart. I actually bought 2, so I actually do have a backup of this, which I'm glad because, I mean, I love it. And then when I got it in, I did some of the coolest looks with this palette. This was a palette that I got right when I started YouTube, and so I did like a everyday smoky brown eye with it. I did this amazing video that I will link using the teals, and that was probably one of the first time I had really stepped out with color and I got really artistic. I used like my liquid liner. I use my liquid lipstick as a liner and everything like that. Like, I will link it down below. But so this has so many amazing memories with it because I used it so much, and this really is where I started testing my creative abilities and like really amping up my makeup. So that's why I really enjoy this palette. I also think it has an amazing formula. The shadows are absolutely fantastic, and it's just a good one. Okay, so next it says to show a palette that I don't think is worth the hype. And this is actually going to be another repeater, but it is my Natasha Denona Sunset palette. And the reason I'm going to say this ties off to what I said earlier, and the fact that I haven't used it like I should for the price point. And that is why I'm saying it's not worth the hype, because while yes, this is an absolutely stunning palette, again, these shades are things that you most likely already have in your collection. And, you know, I'm not going to look at you and say that this is the best eyeshadow formula that I've ever tried, because it's definitely not. And so for that reason, I would say within my collection, it's definitely not worth the hype that it had, especially when I bought it, because it was so hyped up when I had to have it. And I think my parents actually bought it, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it was so hyped up when I had to have it. And while I'm glad I do have it and I did get some enjoyment out of it, like I said, I have not used it to the degree of $130. And I definitely just think that, like, if you can get it on sale, like on sale, then yeah, pick it up if you want it. But I definitely don't think this is one that you're like, your collection would be lacking if you don't have. Like, you can definitely get those colors in a much, much cheaper palette, and that way you don't have to be like, I spent a small fortune on that bad boy. So yeah. So I skipped over the other question, but we can just go right back to it because I'm supposed to show a palette that is worth the hype, which I think is better that we go that way. So then look, I'm turning that negative into a positive. The palette that I think is worth the hype is the Anastasia Beverly Hills and Jackie Aina palette. This palette is everything, you guys. I've done a couple looks with it. We'll link those videos for you guys, but oh my gosh, you guys, this palette is amazing. I got really uninterested in Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. To me, when they were doing like Subculture and even like the Norvina palettes, like whatever you want to call them, even the Carly Bible palette, like none of those were interesting to me at all. The color stories all looked the same. They had like the same shades in every palette. There was like nothing different. It was nothing new. They were coming out with new palettes, yet they didn't look new or anything like that. And then they released this bad boy with the queen of all queens, Jackie herself. And this is probably one of their best palettes, hands down. Now, a favorite palette from a favorite brand. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is going to be the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe Volume 2. And the reason I say that, I know you're like, but you said you love the Volume 1. I do love the Volume 1. But this, you guys, is just so good. I've done a video where I did 3 different makeup looks out of this palette. We'll link it for you guys if you want to see some of my inspo. I think I'm actually going to film another look that I've had in mind for a couple of weeks now in the upcoming week or so. But this palette is gorgeous. Again, it's got that same great formula that the original one had, that like her Vault collection lacked, if you will. And I think it's so great. I love the colors that they chose because it's fun and vibrant with still not being like a Jeffree Star Jawbreaker palette, if you will. So I adore this. Again, you can tell by this video, I do like Morphe, and I think the big Jaclyn Hill palettes are worth your money if you're like looking into something with a little bit more color that's not quite as neutral. And then last but not least, it says to show my most used palette. And again, this is going to be a repeater. It's back to that Friendcation palette, just because again, if ever I have no idea what I want to do, this is the palette that I reach for. I can do a look with 1 color, 2 colors, every matte, anything in there. Like they all work together so perfectly, and it makes it easy, so I don't really have to think about it. And so this is the palette that I would say that I use the most as like an entirety, if that makes any sense. But anyways, you guys, that is all for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Maybe you found a palette or 2 you want to try out. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I post new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and if you hit that notification bell, you will never miss an upload from me. Last but not least, you can also come follow your girl on Instagram at Alyssa and Pope, and I'll see you in my next one.